I should have known something was different the moment he walked through the door. The lecture hall went quiet, not the usual kind of quiet when Professor Kim enters, but the uncomfortable, holding your breath kind. I glanced up from my notes, and that's when I saw him. Kang Taehyun. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair that fell carelessly over his forehead. But it wasn't his looks that made my heart stutter, it was his eyes. Golden, predatory, and currently scanning the room like he was hunting something. Then those eyes locked onto mine. My rabbit instincts kicked in immediately. Every nerve in my body screamed run, hide, disappear. My ears flattened against my head beneath my beanie, and I could feel my hands trembling. I couldn't look away. It was like being caught in a spotlight, paralyzed. His nostrils flared slightly. His jaw clenched. "Mr. Kang, please take a seat," Professor Kim said, oblivious to the tension crackling through the air. Taehyun moved with fluid grace, but there was something restrained about it, like a caged animal trying to appear calm. He chose a seat 3 rows behind me. I could feel his stare burning into the back of my neck for the entire hour. When class ended, I shoved my laptop into my bag so fast I nearly dropped it. I just needed to get out, to breathe, to... Lee Miho. I froze. Professor Kim was smiling at me, gesturing me forward. And standing next to him was Taehyun. No. I'm pairing you two for the semester project on hybrid sociology, Professor Kim announced cheerfully. I think you'll work well together. Miho's one of my top students. I forced a smile. Professor, actually, I usually work alone. Excellent opportunity for collaboration. He patted Taehyun's shoulder, completely missing how the tiger hybrid's entire body went rigid at the touch. Exchange contact information, Then he left us alone. The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Up close, Taehyun was even more intimidating. He towered over me by at least 6 inches, and I could see the faint stripes that marked his skin where his shirt collar didn't quite cover his neck, tiger markings that appeared when hybrids felt strong emotions. "I'm Kang Taehyun," he said finally. His voice was deeper than I expected, rough around the edges. I heard. I clutched my bag strap. "Lee Miho." He took a step closer and I instinctively stepped back. His eyes narrowed slightly, and then he did something that made my blood run cold. He inhaled deeply, deliberately. "You smell." He trailed off, his hands curling into fists at his sides. "Sweet." My face burned. Scent was intimate for hybrids. You didn't just comment on someone's scent, especially not an Omegas. It was like, "That's inappropriate," I managed to say, trying to sound firm despite my voice shaking. Something flickered across his face. Regret? Frustration? "You're right. I'm sorry." He pulled out his phone with movements that seemed too controlled. "Your number. For the project." We exchanged information in tense silence. I couldn't stop noticing little things. The way his hand trembled slightly as he typed, how his jaw stayed clenched, the fact that he kept a careful distance between us now, like he didn't trust himself to get closer. "Library. Tomorrow at 3, he said curtly. "We'll discuss the project." Before I could respond, he turned and walked away, his stride quick and purposeful. The next day, I arrived at the library 10 minutes early, hoping to find a table in the most public, well-lit area possible. I settled near the main desk where the librarian, Mrs. Han, could see everything. Taehyun appeared exactly at 3. He sat across from me, his posture rigid, and pulled out his laptop without a word. We worked in awkward silence for 20 minutes, discussing research topics and dividing tasks. I was starting to think maybe I'd overreacted yesterday. Maybe he was just socially awkward. Maybe. I felt it before I saw it. That golden stare, fixed on my neck. I touched my throat self-consciously. "What?" His eyes snapped to his screen. "Nothing. You're staring." "I'm not." But his knuckles were white where they gripped the edge of the table. "Taehyun." The wood cracked. I jumped as a split formed under his fingers. He jerked his hands back, staring at them like they belonged to someone else. When he looked up at me, there was something wild in his eyes, something desperate. "Stay away from me, Miho," he said, his voice barely above a growl. "I'm not safe for you." "What are you?" But he was already shoving his laptop into his bag, already standing, already leaving. I watched him go, my heart pounding, questions burning in my throat. Mrs. Han came over, frowning at the damaged table. "That poor boy," she murmured. "Always so tense. You know him? He comes in here often. Late at night when no one else is around." She shook her head. "Always looks like he's fighting something." I gathered my things slowly, my mind racing. What had happened to him? Why did he look at me like I was both everything he wanted and everything he feared? That night, I returned to my apartment building exhausted. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs to my floor, already imagining collapsing into bed. Then I saw my door. My keys fell from my hand, clattering against the floor. 4 deep gouges ran down the wood, splintering through the paint. Claw marks. Fresh ones, I could see the raw wood underneath. And they were too high, too wide to be from anything small. Tiger claws. I picked up my keys with shaking hands and triple-locked my door that night. But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept circling through my mind. Why had he been here? And what had stopped him from coming inside? For 3 days, Taehyun avoided me like I carried a disease. He stopped coming to lectures. Didn't respond to my messages about the project. I told myself I should feel relieved. Wasn't this what I wanted? Distance from whatever dangerous thing was happening between us? But I couldn't stop thinking about those claw marks on my door. "You look like death," Park Ji-hoon announced, sliding into the seat next to me at lunch. My best friend had known me since freshman year and had exactly 0 filter. "When's the last time you left your apartment for something that wasn't class?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're spiraling." He stabbed at his bibimbap. "That's it. We're going out tonight." Ji-hoon, no. Underground hybrid club in Gangnam. My treat. "You need to get out of your head, Miho." I wanted to argue, but maybe he was right. Maybe I just needed one night to feel normal again. I should have trusted my instincts. The club was packed, pulsing with music and the mixed scents of dozens of hybrids. Ji-hoon pulled me through the crowd toward the bar, grinning like he'd personally solved all my problems. "See? Isn't this better than moping in your apartment?" I had to admit, the energy was infectious. For the first time in days, I felt myself starting to relax. We drank, we danced, and I almost forgot about golden eyes and claw marks. Then Ji-hoon went to the bathroom, and everything went wrong. Well, what do we have here? I turned to find a wolf hybrid blocking my path. Alpha, I could tell from the cocky tilt of his head and the heavy scent of aggression rolling off him. His eyes were glassy, movements loose. Drunk. A little rabbit all alone? Choi Sungwoo. I recognized him from campus, a senior with a reputation. His hand found my waist, fingers digging in possessively. "Where's your keeper?" "I don't have a keeper." I tried to push him away, but he was solid muscle and far stronger than me. "Let go." "Don't be like that." His breath reeked of soju as he leaned closer. Omega's like you shouldn't tease if you don't want attention. Panic clawed up my throat. I said let go. Then I heard it. A growl that made every hybrid in a 10-foot radius freeze mid-motion. It was primal, territorial, and absolutely murderous. Sungwoo's hand went slack on my waist. "Get hands him." Taehyun stood 5 feet away, and he looked nothing like the controlled, restrained person from the library. His eyes blazed pure gold, pupils slit like a cat's. His lips pulled back to reveal elongated fangs. The tiger stripes on his neck were vivid, spreading up to his jaw. The air turned suffocating as alpha pheromones flooded the space, so intense, so dominant, that even the music seemed to fade into background noise. My knees nearly buckled from the sheer force of it. "This doesn't concern you," Sungwoo slurred, but his voice shook. "He's mine." Taehyun's voice dropped to something inhuman. "Touch him again and I'll rip your throat out." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Sungwoo barely managed to remove his hand before Taehyun moved, faster than should have been possible. One moment he was across the space, the next Sungwoo was airborne, crashing into a table that splintered under the impact. Chaos erupted. People screamed, scrambled backward. Bouncers rushed forward, but one look at Taehyun's face and they hesitated. Then his hand was around my wrist, trembling, burning hot, and he was pulling me through the crowd, outside, into the cold night air. I gulped down oxygen, my heart hammering. "Taehyun, are you insane?" He whirled on me, his eyes still that terrifying gold. Do you know what could have happened? That alpha could have. He cut himself off, jaw clenching so hard I heard his teeth grind. Why do you even care? The words burst out before I could stop them. You've been avoiding me for days. You left claw marks on my door and then disappeared. His expression cracked, showing something raw underneath. Because you're, he stopped, fists clenching. Because you're mine to protect. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. I'm not yours, I said quietly. You don't even know me. Don't I? He stepped closer, and I could see the war happening behind his eyes. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I know your scent drives me so crazy I can't think straight, can't sleep, can't fucking breathe without wanting to. He stopped abruptly, turning away. His shoulders heaved. Wanting to what? I whispered. It doesn't matter. When he looked back, his eyes had faded to their normal dark brown, but they held such exhaustion. Just stay away from places like this. Stay away from alphas like him. What about alphas like you? Something painfully vulnerable crossed his face. Especially alphas like me. He started walking away, hands shoved deep in his pockets. Taehyun, wait. But he was already gone, disappearing into the shadows between streetlights. I stood there alone, my wrists still warm where he'd grabbed me, my mind reeling. Behind me, I could hear sirens approaching the club. Jihoon would be looking for me. But all I could think about was the desperate conviction in Taehyun's voice when he'd said, "You're mine to protect." I touched my wrist, and that's when I noticed. Blood. Just a few drops, but definitely blood. I looked up at the empty street where Taehyun had vanished, and my rabbit instincts whispered what my heart already knew. Something was very, very wrong with Kang Taehyun, and I was in far too deep to walk away now. After that night at the club, Taehyun didn't just avoid me, he vanished completely. No lectures. No responses. His seat in class remained empty for 5 days straight. I told myself it was for the best. Whatever was happening between us was dangerous, complicated, impossible. But I couldn't stop checking my phone, hoping for a message that never came. Then, on Friday afternoon during calculus, it hit me. My vision blurred. Sweat broke out across my forehead. My skin felt like it was burning from the inside out, and a desperate ache settled low in my stomach. Not now. Not here. My heats were always regular, predictable. I wasn't due for another 3 weeks. But my body didn't care about schedules as waves of need rolled through me, each one stronger than the last. I barely managed to shove my things into my bag and stumble out of the classroom, ignoring the professor's concerned questions. The hallway spun. Every scent was too strong, every sound too loud. I have to get home. Somehow, I made it to my apartment. My hands shook so badly I could barely unlock the door. I collapsed inside, kicking it shut behind me, and crawled toward my bedroom where my nest was. The fever was getting worse. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the screen. Heat came early. Need suppressants. I hit send to Jihoon and let the phone fall from my fingers. Time became liquid. Minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. The ache intensified until I was whimpering, curling into my nest of blankets and pillows, desperately seeking comfort that wouldn't come. Then I heard it. My door, not opening but breaking. Wood splintering. The crash of my lock giving way. Through my haze, panic tried to surface. Someone was in my apartment. I should run, hide, but I couldn't move, couldn't. Miho! That voice. I knew that voice. Taehyun appeared in my bedroom doorway, and he looked absolutely wrecked. His hair was wild, his eyes that blazing gold again, his chest heaving like he'd run the entire way here. I could smell you from across campus, he breathed, and his voice was barely human. Your scent, it's everywhere. I tried to stay away, but... You need to leave, I managed to whimper, even as every omega instinct in my body screamed at him to come closer, to touch me, to make the aching stop. I know. But he didn't move. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, claws extending and retracting. I know I should leave. I know this is dangerous. But I can't. Fuck Miho, I can't. Another wave of heat crashed through me and I cried out, curling tighter. That broke him. In 3 strides he was beside my nest, and then, so carefully, like I might shatter, he gathered me into his arms. His scent wrapped around me, cedar and rain and something wild and comforting. My body relaxed immediately, the ache dulling to something bearable. "It's okay," he murmured against my hair. "I've got you. I'm here." He carried me properly into my nest, arranged the blankets and pillows around us, and held me through the worst of it. When I whimpered, he whispered soothing words in Korean. When I shook, he held me tighter. When the fever spiked, he pressed a cool cloth to my forehead that he must have gotten from my bathroom. And through it all, I could feel the tension in his body, every muscle locked tight, fighting against instincts that had to be screaming at him to claim me, to mark me, to make me his. But he didn't. He just held me, protected me, kept me safe. "Why?" I whispered during a brief moment of clarity. "Why are you doing this?" His arms tightened around me. "Because you need me. And His voice cracked. "I need you to be okay more than I need anything else. But you said you were dangerous." "I am." I felt his lips brush my temple, gentle, reverent. "But I'd rather die than let anything hurt you. Even myself." I drifted after that, floating in and out of consciousness. Sometimes I'd wake to find him still there, still holding me, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. Once, I woke to hear him on the phone with someone, probably Jihun, assuring them I was safe, that someone was taking care of me. At dawn, the fever finally broke. I blinked awake slowly, my body exhausted but no longer burning. The early morning light filtered through my curtains, painting everything in soft gold. Taehyun's arms were still around me. His eyes were closed, his face peaceful in sleep, and for the first time since I'd met him, he didn't look haunted. I studied him in the quiet, the strong line of his jaw, the dark lashes against his cheeks, the tiger stripes that had faded to faint lines on his neck. He was beautiful and dangerous and had stayed with me through the worst of my heat without taking advantage once. "I'm sorry, Miho," he murmured, and I realized his eyes had opened. They were brown again, soft and sad. "I can't stay away anymore." Before I could respond, he carefully extracted himself from the nest, moving like it physically hurt him to let go. "Taehyun, sleep," he said gently. "You need rest." And then he was gone. When I finally dragged myself out of bed hours later, my apartment was spotless. My broken door had been temporarily repaired. There was water and crackers on my nightstand. And on my kitchen counter, there was a vase overflowing with tiger lilies. I touched the soft petals, my heart aching in a way that had nothing to do with heat. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number, he's dangerous. Meet me if you want to know the truth about what he did at his last school. Yoon Jae-won." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "When and where?" The cafe was quiet, tucked away in a side street I'd never noticed before. Yoon Jae-won sat by the window, a deer hybrid with soft features and nervous eyes that kept darting toward the door. "Lee Miho?" he asked as I approached. I nodded and sat down. "You said you know about Taehyun." "I was there." Jae-won pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table. "At his last school. I saw what he did." The article on the screen made my blood run cold. Tiger hybrid hospitalizes 3 students in brutal attack. There were photos, blurred for privacy, but I could see the destruction. Broken furniture, blood, and a mention of Kang Taehyun, 18, being questioned but released. "He nearly killed them," Jae-won whispered. 3 alphas. Put them all in intensive care. The school covered it up, called it self-defense, but I was there, Miho. I saw his eyes. He wasn't in control. He was a monster. My hands trembled. "What happened? Why did he attack them?" "Does it matter?" Jae-won leaned forward urgently. "He's a ticking time bomb. One day he'll lose control again, and next time..." He stopped, his meaning clear. "Next time it could be you. Stay away from him. Please." I left the cafe with the article burning in my mind. 3 alphas hospitalized. Self-defense. Monster. But I kept thinking about Taehyun's hands, gentle as they held me through my heat. His voice, broken as he said, "I'm not safe for you." I had to know the truth. His truth. Taehyun's apartment building was nicer than I expected. I stood outside his door for a full minute before gathering the courage to knock. He answered shirtless, hair damp from a shower, and froze when he saw me. Miho, did you almost kill someone? The words came out harsher than I intended. All the color drained from his face. For a moment he just stood there, and then he stepped back, letting me in. His apartment was sparse. Minimal furniture. No decorations except for a single photo on the shelf. A younger Taehyun with an older woman who had his smile. Yes, he said finally, his voice hollow. And I'd do it again. I turned to face him. Tell me what happened. The truth. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sank onto the couch, head in his hands. There was an Omega, first-year student. I heard her screaming in the locker room after practice. His voice shook. 3 alphas had her cornered. They were hurting her and she was begging them to stop. My breath caught. I pulled them off her. That should have been enough. His hands curled into fists. But they laughed. Said she'd been asking for it. Said no one would believe an Omega over 3 alphas. And something in me just... He looked up at me with haunted eyes. I saw red. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to tear them apart for what they'd done. Taehyun. The school ruled it self-defense because of the Omega's testimony. But I saw what I did to them. I remember every second. His voice broke. I'm terrified of my own strength, Miho. I'm terrified of what I could do. That's why I pushed you away. You make me feel things I can't control and I won't risk hurting you. I crossed the room and sat beside him. He flinched when I took his hand. You stayed with me through my heat, I said softly. You could have done anything. Taken advantage. But you didn't. You just held me and kept me safe. That's different. Is it? I turned his face toward mine. You're not a monster, Taehyun. Monsters don't protect people. Monsters don't fight their instincts to keep someone safe. You don't understand. Then stop controlling it, I whispered, closing the distance between us. Stop pushing me away. His pupils dilated. Miho, there's no going back. I don't want to go back. Something snapped in him. His hands slid into my hair, and then his lips were on mine, desperate, consuming, like he was drowning and I was air. I kissed him back just as fiercely, all the tension and fear and wanting of the past weeks pouring into this single moment. He pulled back, breathing hard. Miho. My name was a prayer and a warning. If I mark you, we'll be bonded. Forever. You'll be tied to me, to whatever I am. I know what marking means. I tilted my head, exposing my neck. I want this. I want you. His control shattered. He pulled me into his lap, lips trailing down my jaw to my throat. I could feel his fangs grazing my skin, not breaking it yet, giving me one last chance to change my mind. My rabbit ears twitched, picking up the rapid beat of his heart that matched my own. Please, I breathed. Mine, he growled against my neck. You're mine, Miho. Yours, I agreed. Always yours. When his fangs sank in, the pain was sharp and bright, but it lasted only a second before transforming into something else entirely. Warmth flooded through me, a connection snapping into place like a door locking. I could feel him, his fear, his love, his desperate need to protect me. He licked the wound gently, sealing it, then pulled back to look at me with those golden eyes. No regrets, he whispered. I touched the mark on my neck, his mark, and smiled. None. He kissed me again, softer this time, and I melted into him. My dangerous, beautiful tiger who'd finally claimed me as his own. For the first time in weeks, I felt completely, utterly safe. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I always would be.